Evening, everyone, and welcome to our live coverage of the latest mission from Vandenberg Space Force Base. Will Robinson Smith will be providing our commentary for the duration of this coverage. Apologize for coming on a little bit later than anticipated. We were working through some technical hurdles behind the scenes, but we believe that all of those have been resolved and we are ready to move on with the final 20 minutes of the countdown for SpaceX's second Falcon 9 and second Starlink mission of the evening. Our editor, Stephen Young, helping to provide some of the support on the tech side behind the scenes here. Our launch team, of course, since this is a Vandenberg mission, has the evening off. We are currently targeting T0 liftoff for the Falcon 9 rocket from Space Launch Complex 4 East at 9:09 p.m. Pacific, 12:09 a.m. Eastern, 04:09 UTC. Currently T-minus 19 minutes, 19 seconds and counting to that planned liftoff time. We do have word from SpaceX that fueling has in fact begun. So they are committing to making a run at it. Just a little bit after 9 p.m. Pacific time, that is. I want to thank the more than 2,600 of you who are joining us live this evening. Whether you're coming here for your first launch of the day or you're coming back after the Cape Base launch, either welcome or welcome back. Certainly appreciate it if you hit the like button as we get things rolling here, allow more folks to find this live coverage as we continue on with the countdown. We're also powered by our wonderful channel members. So thanks to folks like I Am Lita, Josh King, Liz Leninsky, Jeff Hansen, that Opal guy, Bradley Janes, and several others like Zever Wolf who are joining us live this evening. Channel membership powers what we do here at Spaceflight Now. So sincere thank you to everyone who is joining us. Of course, channel membership comes with a number of perks, including discounts at our online shop.spaceflightnow.com, access to member-only videos here on YouTube, as well as the ability to watch our Cape-based launches in 4K. Hello to some of our channel members checking in. Cat Calf, Jimbo Indy, that Opal guy, Ruben Garcia, Alan McKeithen. Good evening to you all. At this point in the count, T-minus 17 minutes, 15 seconds and counting. We had eyes on the vehicle. We'd be seeing the so-called big vent from the strongback. V-lines are currently being chilled in preparation for second stage liquid oxygen loading. Fueling began with loading RP1 or rocket grade kerosene onto both the first and the second stages of the Falcon 9 rocket and liquid oxygen onto the first stage of the vehicle. we're coming to the final 15 minutes of the count. Let's go ahead and hop over and step through the timeline that is currently still remaining for this mission. Go ahead for the start of fueling was given at T minus 38 minutes. As I mentioned a second or two ago, that was started at T minus 35 minutes with rocket grade kerosene or RP1 being loaded onto the first and second stages. LOX load on the first stage as well. At T minus 30 minutes, that's when the cryogenic helium was loaded on board the first stage of the Falcon 9 rocket. Cryogenic helium is used to pressurize the main propellant tanks during flight. That was followed at T minus 26 minutes by the same process on the second stage. Second stage RP1 load wrapped up at about T minus 23 minutes. And the strong back chill down process began with the big vent at about T minus 20 minutes and 50 seconds. That brings us up to the most recent event that will have begun. Loading of liquid oxygen on board the second stage. Coming up next milestone is T minus 7 minutes when the engine chill down sequence begins. It involves flowing a small amount of liquid oxygen through the plumbing and turbo pumps to protect them from the risk of thermal shock and damage during the startup sequence. T minus 6 minutes, the first stage kerosene load is completed. T minus 4.5 minutes, strong back retract sequence begins. Clamp arms underneath the payload fairings will open up, and then the strong back will recline about 13 degrees away from the Falcon 9 rocket here at Vandenberg. At that point, we should also have eyes on the Falcon 9 as well. T minus 3 minutes, the first stage liquid oxygen tank should be fully loaded, followed up at T minus 2 minutes when second stage LOX load wraps up. At that point, the vehicle is fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant. In the final 60 seconds, control of the countdown is handed over from the ground sequencer to the Falcon 9's onboard flight computers. The propellant tanks are brought up to flight pressure. The launch director will give their go for liftoff at 45 seconds out. Engine ignition command is issued at T minus 3 seconds. And if all 9 Merlin engines are healthy and ignite, we'll see a liftoff of the vehicle at T0. Again, currently targeting 9:09 p.m. Pacific, 12:09 a.m. Eastern, 04:09 UTC. Coming up in 12 minutes and 12 seconds from now. Taking a look at the live chat, want to thank some folks for their generosity this evening. Thank Marcus Gallegos for gifting not 1, not 2, but in fact 7 Spaceflight Now memberships. Really appreciate that, Marcus. Thank you so much for your generosity. And also to Wicked Code for gifting 5 Spaceflight Now memberships. So if you are one of those who is a new channel member, first of all, welcome aboard. Glad to have you with us. And be sure to thank Wicked Code and Marcus in the live chat if you haven't already. We're T minus 10 minutes, 34 seconds and counting. As we prepare to see this Falcon 9 liftoff, the second of the day for SpaceX, let's take a look ahead at where it will be going in our look at the trajectory for this Falcon flight. As is the case for all the other Falcon 9 launches, sending Starlink satellites into shell number 7. This will be launching from Vandenberg Space Force Base here in Southern California at Space Launch Complex 4 East, or Slick 4E. Once it leaves the pad, the Falcon 9 will fly in a southeasterly trajectory along the coast of Southern California and the west coast of Mexico. Falcon 9 first stage will be landing down on the drone ship, of course, I Still Love You, which is stationed out there in the Pacific Ocean, ready and waiting. The payload fairings will also be jettisoned just a little bit downrange of where the booster lands on the drone ship here. For this particular drone ship, of course, I Still Love You, this will be its 85th booster landing and SpaceX's 283rd booster landing to date. Our Starlink missions for SpaceX, this will be the 15th dedicated mission on the year so far. Now T minus 8 minutes, 54 seconds and counting. We're a little less than 2 minutes away from the engine chill down sequence beginning. Now T minus 7 minutes, 46 seconds and counting. Of course, this is a dedicated Starlink mission, Starlink 7-17 to be exact. On board the Falcon 9 rocket, inside the payload fairings are 23 Starlink satellites. Each comes in at about 1,760 pounds or 800 kilograms. With their solar panels unfurled, they have a wingspan of about 100 feet or 30 meters. Taking a look at the image on the left-hand side of your screen of them stacked in their launch configuration from an earlier flight. They use argon Hall thrusters for in-orbit maneuvers, replacing the previously used Krypton Hall thrusters. They were built in Redmond, Washington. They'll be deployed at about 180 miles or 290 kilometers in altitude at a 53-degree inclination. We're now T minus 6 minutes, 45 seconds and counting. At this point, the engine chill down sequence is now underway. As we come into the final 6 minutes of the count, I want to first of all thank the nearly 7,000 of you who are watching live. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the like button, allow more folks to find this live coverage as we come into SpaceX's second Falcon 9 launch of the day. Before we do that, let's go ahead and give you a look ahead at the launch timeline. So once the Falcon 9 rocket has lifted off, these are the sequence of events that will be coming up. Liftoff, of course, still scheduled for 9:09 p.m. Pacific, 12:09 a.m. Eastern, 04:09 UTC. Following liftoff, the vehicle will pass through Max Q, or the point of greatest aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle, T plus 1 minute and 9 seconds. That'll be followed by a series of events in fairly rapid succession. T plus 2 minutes 28 seconds will be first stage main engine cutoff, or MECO, followed by stage separation at T plus 2 minutes and 32 seconds. And at T plus 2 minutes and 38 seconds will be second stage engine ignition, SES1, followed by payload fairing jettison at T plus 3 minutes and 8 seconds. Then at T plus 6 minutes 14 seconds will be the first stage entry burn ignition, lasting 18 seconds. Then at T plus 7 minutes 52 seconds, the landing burn begins. The first stage booster will touch down on the drone ship, of course, I Still Love You, at 8 minutes and 14 seconds. That'll be followed by second stage engine cutoff, or SECO 1, at T plus 8 minutes and 41 seconds. Then at 53 minutes on the dot, there will be a 2-second burn of the second stage engine, setting up for a Starlink satellite deployment at T plus 1 hour, 1 minute, and 54 seconds. With that, we can now bring you some visuals of the rocket itself. Payload fairings you see up top, cradling those 23 Starlink satellites. Worth noting, not for these payload fairings, but for the flight that happened earlier in this evening from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, those payload fairings were used just 25 days ago on the USSF 124 mission. According to SpaceX, that marks the fastest turnaround time for fairing reusability to date. The transporter erector leaning away now from the Falcon 9 rocket. Clamp arms are opened up as we are now just a little over 3 minutes away from the planned liftoff of this Falcon 9 rocket.
Stage 1 locks load complete, and Stage 1 pogo.
That call up for Stage 1 locks load complete. First stage, the Falcon 9 now fully fueled. We're just waiting for the second stage to be loaded with its locks. The vehicle will be ready to go. I want to thank Valerie Jones for being a channel member for 3 months, the PAL leader level. Really appreciate that, Valerie. Thanks for the coverage and everything. Very welcome. Thanks for supporting it. Thanks to some more generosity from channel member Marcus Gallegos for gifting another 5 Spaceflight Now memberships. So to our newest 5 members, welcome aboard. Glad to have you with us. Thank Marcus in the live chat.
Stage 2 locks load is complete.
And with that call out, the Falcon 9 is now fully fueled with 1 million pounds of propellant.
Gas launch closeout. Falcon 9 is in startup.
As you see the ground gas closeouts, we're now approaching T-minus 50 seconds. Should hear the SpaceX launch director give their go for liftoff momentarily.
LD is go for launch.
There you have it. We're counting it down to our final 30 seconds before our second Falcon 9 launch of the day for SpaceX.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Go ahead and listen into the SpaceX mission audio carry us through the liftoff here, the Falcon 9 from Vandenberg Space Force Base. Let's listen in.
T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition. And liftoff of Falcon 9. Go Starlink, go SpaceX.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Stage 1 propulsion nominal.
Power and telemetry nominal.
Good liftoff of the Falcon 9
Vehicle
rocket
is
from
supersonic.
Space Launch Complex 4 East at Vandenberg. Vehicle is now traveling faster than the speed of sound.
Max Q.
I call it from XQ, the Falcon 9 now going through the point of greatest aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. So we're approaching a minute and a half into flight.
MVAC engine chill.
That call, they are now thermally conditioning the second stage Merlin vacuum engine to prepare for the start of its burn. We're coming up on the second minute of the flight. We're going to hit a few different events in rapid succession. Again, that'll be main engine cutoff at T plus 2 minutes 28 seconds, followed 4 seconds later by stage separation. Then the Merlin vacuum engine will ignite at T plus 2 minutes and 38 seconds. And finally, in the sequence, T plus 3 minutes and 8 seconds will be the payload fairing deployment. Here's we still have a good burn on the 9 Merlin engines on the first stage.
Main engine cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC ignition.
All those good callouts. See the hypersonic grid fins deploying there on the Falcon 9 first stage. On the left-hand
Both
side of your
vehicles continue to follow nominal trajectories.
coming up on fairing deployment in a few seconds.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And with that, you can see the Starlink satellites exposed to the vacuum of space for the first time on this mission. See the lights of Southern California. That might be the coast of Mexico there in the upper left-hand corner on your screen. A little over 3.5 minutes into flight. Next event coming up will be the first stage entry burn at T plus 6 minutes and 14 seconds. See the Falcon 9 first stage is still continuing to climb. This has not quite reached the peak of its altitude. Though it is beginning to slow down. That first stage is now past its apogee on this flight, getting to lower in altitude. by 1 kilometer so far. A little over 4.5 minutes into flight.
Both vehicles continue to follow nominal trajectories.
And there are 23 Starlink satellites on board the Falcon 9 second stage, adding to the 23 that were deployed as part of the Starlink 6-43 mission earlier this evening. Take a look at the live chat, see Bloxburg cruise ship says they can still see the second stage looking to the south. So it sounds like a clear night there in Southern California, which is wonderful. You're seeing on the left-hand side of your screen is the flight path of both the first and the second stages of the Falcon 9 rocket, just to get a sense of where everything is in real time. On the 6th minute of flight, we're just about a little less than 15 seconds away from the entry burning again. The entry burn underway.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And its conclusion. Coming up next, of course, will be the first stage landing burn at T plus 7 minutes and 52 seconds.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
Stage 1, FTS is saved.
Booster is coming in for its 17th landing after making its 17th launch.
Stage 2, FTS is saved.
Stage 1 transonic.
Pull up. The first stage booster now traveling below the speed of sound.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
Stage 1 landing burn.
See the drone ship coming into view there.
Landing with deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And for the 17th time, this first stage booster back on its landing legs.
MVAC shutdown.
And with the Merlin vacuum engine shutting down, the upper stage is going into a parking orbit where it will remain until T plus 53 minutes on the dot, when it will conduct a brief 2-second burn, setting up for Starlink satellite deployment at T plus 1 hour, 1 minute, and 54 seconds. Following satellite deployment, the Merlin vacuum engine will ignite for a third time, driving the upper stage back into the atmosphere where it will burn up, helping to eliminate the risk of creating orbital debris with this mission. while we are coming into the 11th minute of this particular mission. This is not the only operation for SpaceX right now. Taking a live look back here in Florida, this is Historic Launch Complex 39A, where SpaceX is preparing for yet another Starlink mission. Coming off of this pad, I believe this will be Starlink 6-44 that is set to launch on Wednesday, continuing what is anticipated to be a very busy week for SpaceX and naturally by extension for us for our live launch coverage. As following that, they are poised to launch this mammoth right here. Of course, this is the third integrated Starship vehicle down there in South Texas, taking a live look at Starbase and the orbital launch mount there with Ship 28 atop its Super Heavy booster, getting ready to launch this mission as early as Thursday, March 14th, Pi Day, of course. Our esteemed photographer, Adam Bernstein, is already en route to South Texas, getting ready to set the stage for our live coverage from Starbase later this week. Our live launch coverage, as was the case with the second integrated flight test, will be done in partnership with our friends at Lab Padre, who are also bringing us these live pictures currently this evening. And back at the pad where we saw the launch earlier tonight over at Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, NASA and SpaceX are preparing to launch the first second generation Dragon since the abort test. And this will be the first Dragon, a second generation Dragon heading to the International Space Station from that pad on the Starlink, or excuse me, on the Commercial Resupply Services or CRS-30 mission. And if that all wasn't enough, tomorrow morning, SpaceX and NASA will be undocking the Crew Dragon Endurance and preparing to bring the Crew 7 astronauts home after a little more than 6 months docked on orbit at the International Space Station. As we heard from their change of command ceremony and formal farewell, while they have certainly enjoyed their time on orbit, it sounds like they are more than ready to come home. It's certainly difficult to be away from your family for that long duration, as those who have been deployed for military service are well aware of. Before we go ahead and close things out with a look at the updated mission stats, I want to thank a few more folks for their support of our live launch coverage tonight. Our thanks to Jones Family Ranch for a $5 super chat with some support there. Thank you to Jones family. Marcus Gallegos with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Marcus, who says, to everyone who's gotten a gift from me, you are welcome. Remember to share. Remember to share that this wonderful coverage. Thank you, Marcus. And also thank you to Mud Dauber for gifting a Spaceflight Now membership. Really appreciate that, Mud. I'm Lita with a $5 super chat who says, beautiful view tonight from the Antelope Valley. Thanks again to Will and the crew. Glad to hear that It was a clear night for a good launch from Southern California. And finally, Gilbert Goobies Castro with a $3 super chat as well. Thank you, Gilbert. And taking a look at where things have landed with SpaceX, this was the 17th flight of this Falcon 9 booster, tail number 1063 in the SpaceX fleet. This was SpaceX's 309th Falcon 9 launch to date, its 24th Falcon 9 flight of 2024, and its 24th orbital launch of the year as well. This was the 104th SpaceX orbital launch within the last 365 days, the 69th orbital launch from Pad Slick 4E, and the 137th overall orbital launch from this pad, and the 9th from Vandenberg in 2024. Moving on to some recovery stats, this was the 85th landing on the drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, the 219th SpaceX drone ship landing, and the 283rd booster landing to date as well. Finally, moving out to a global view of things, this was the 9th orbital launch from California, the 25th orbital launch from U.S. soil, the 27th orbital launch from U.S. rocket company, and the 46th orbital launch from around the globe. Here's that pie chart for you to close things out. And with that, we thank you for being with us on another busy double launch day from SpaceX. Coming in right at the buzzer, Grundle Wizard with a $5 super chat who says, I just saw the rocket as I was walking here in Riverside, California. Red fireball in the sky. Awesome. Very cool. And glad you happened to catch that on your evening walk. And appreciate you stopping by and being with us for our live coverage and helping to support that, Grundle. And with that, as I mentioned, there's lots coming up this week, including a launch from Rocket Lab, all in the mix, and lots of travel and other things to help support our live coverage. So again, be sure to look out for our big team coverage of the Starship's third integrated flight test coming later this week, as early as Thursday, March 14th. We'll have the crew out in force to cover that. And as previously mentioned, we'll be doing it in partnership again with the good folks at Lab Padre. So very much looking forward to that and seeing this third flight of Starship. A little bit of a different trajectory than last time. Intended splashdown of the ship upper stage will happen in the Indian Ocean as opposed to targeting over in the Pacific north of Hawaii. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to Spaceflight Now. Good time to do so before we get into a very busy week of live launch coverage from Florida, from Texas, and sure shooting, there'll probably be another California launch somewhere in the mix as well, probably on the back half of the week. And as you do, be sure to click the bell icon, turn on all notifications. That way you get alerted whenever we do these live streams, as well as post new videos to the channel. I want to thank our editor, Stephen Young, for running the technical operations of the broadcast. I want to thank our wonderful moderators in the live chat. I know I saw Stephanie B's name float by. Speaking of, asking how the weather for the Starship launch is on Thursday. That is a good question. Stand by. Let me see if I can find the answer to that real quick. Yeah, because of the time of year, unfortunately, there's a good chance of fog. That said, looking at Apple's forecast from, I believe they get their data from not the Weather Channel, I think it's AccuWeather. Looks like seeing the wind icon across the board on Thursday the 14th. Looks like some clouds close to midnight, and then starting around 2 o'clock or so, it's just wind icon until 6 p.m. So there's a chance it may be a bit too breezy for launch of Starship, but we're still a few days out, so we'll go ahead and let things shore up a little bit as we continue on through the next couple of days. Looking at the following backup day on Friday, it looks like it's going to be cloudy during the time which SpaceX is aiming to launch the Starship rocket. Same for Saturday. Sunday looks like it'll be partly cloudy in the early morning hours during that period of time. So we will continue, as always, to track the weather heading into the Starlink, or excuse me, the Starship launch operation, and look forward to bringing you coverage going on through it. And to answer channel member Jeff Hansen's question, yes, we are going to be covering the Starlink, or keep saying Starlink because we just saw Starlink launch twice today, but the Starship launch on Thursday, yes, we will be providing coverage of that in partnership with Lab Padre. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wind things down and close it out. And already thanked Steven, thanked Stephanie and the other mods who may have been with us tonight. Most importantly, though, I want to thank you for spending part of your Sunday with us. I hope you had a wonderful weekend, got some good R&R in there for you, and you're prepared to tackle another week ahead, whatever is on your plate. I hope you do it with fierceness and resolve and kindness above all. For all of us here at Spaceflight Now, I'm Will Robinson Smith. Be sure to be good to yourselves, be good to others. We will see you next time. It's going to be another busy one. Get some rest. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.